Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Review Masterclass. How to write a good classical recording review. And I have a particularly interesting example here because it was very well chosen. I mean, you got to know how to pick them, folks. You know, Katharine Hepburn always said that about Peter O'Toole. Like, why did he do so many trashy movies later in his career? And Katharine Hepburn said he just didn't know how to pick them. Well, this has to do with the same law applies when you're writing reviews. Pick recordings where you have something to say or that are interesting to talk about. There's just a vast squadron of stuff coming out at any given time, which is not terribly interesting. It's decent, it's professional, and nobody much cares. So if you're going to talk about something, make sure it's something that either you have some particular insight, to share, or an artist who has, some sort of following that, will perk up people's interest. You got to be smart about these things. Oh, this is a smart choice. It's Chopin's Third Piano Sonata with IVO POGORELICH on Sony, coming out in 2022. So that's, Pogorelich, of course, is Pogorelich, however you pronounce his last name, is a controversial character. He was gone from the scene for a long period of time. He's tried to make a comeback. It hasn't been very successful. He did make a recording. Well, let's see what this person has to say about it. Are you ready? So I'm going to read the whole review, and we'll stop along the way as necessary. IVO POGORELICH enjoys a controversial reputation. Very true. The winner manqué of the 10th Chopin International Piano Competition in 1980, he disappeared from the music scene in the late 1990s after a personal loss, and it took more than 20 years for him to reemerge from the hiatus. Released by Sony Classical in 2022, this all-Chopin album belongs decidedly to the post-hiatus period, and Pogorelich's rendition of Chopin's lush and, dare I say, somewhat neglected Piano Sonata No. 3 shows why reviews of his performances continue to be uneven. Well, I don't think, first of all, okay, let's get this. First of all, get rid of the dare I say, because you're wrong. Chopin's Third Sonata is recorded all over the place. I mean, constantly by everybody. So you shouldn't say that it's somewhat neglected. It's not somewhat neglected. It just isn't. It's an incorrect statement. Compared to the second, relatively. So if that's what you want to say, okay. But all right. Then why reviews of the performances continue to be uneven? No. You don't say reviews of the performances are uneven. You say his performances are uneven. You're not reviewing the reviews. You're reviewing the artist. Right? Yes. So, okay, let's continue. The first movement balances the yin of a martial pugnacity against the yang of quintessentially Chopin-esque romanticism. All right, you're starting to get a little precious here. Don't you think? I mean, yin and yang, yeah, okay, fine. You can find some way to work that in, but I can see where this is going. And, you don't want to use long, sort of flowery, elaborate phraseology just to try and show how smart you are. You have to be focused on the performance. So we're with yin and yang. Shall we continue? Pogorelich's yin lacks elan and storminess. The yang does not capture the movement's spring-like melodiousness. At his worst, Pogorelich is clunky and borderline soporific. Oh, I hate that word, soporific. I mean, does that really tell us anything? Is that helpful? Clunky and borderline soporific? Or is it just soporific? You're starting to develop a case of adjectivitis. You just come out and say it. Don't somewhat this and borderline that. And you're starting to sound like a gramophone review. Anyway, the tempo in the second movement is too slow, and the movement ends up running nearly 4 minutes long. In her 1965 reference recording of the work, Argerich gets through it in just 2.5. Well, you see how beautiful it is? when you resort to simple declarative phrases, simple sentences, simple points that are about facts that are inarguable, that's so much stronger than being borderline soporific, don't you think? Okay, let's continue. What comes next is not much better. In this sonata, everything hinges on the exquisite third movement, which is supposed to be pensive and introspective. I would just say everything hinges on the exquisite, pensive, and introspective third movement, or something like that. Or get rid of exquisite and just say pensive and introspective third movement. You can condense it a little bit and make the point more strongly by, again, being a little bit more direct. While Pogorelich has all the introspection one needs, and then some, he turns the whole thing into something of a soliloquy. Not something of a. He turns it into a soliloquy. And you could elaborate on that. A soliloquy, self-regarding, narcissistic. I mean, you make the point. A soliloquy, and the movement drags on for almost 11 minutes. He turns it into a self-absorbed soliloquy which drags on for more than 11 minutes. Very, very simple to put it all together in clear diction. You get it? You hear what I'm saying here? Okay. You could get away with it performing the sonata in a 1997 concert. Another astounding recording, Grigory Sokolov, also took his sweet time, but unlike Pogorelich, he brought in a lot more nuance. Okay, good comparison. Very good. The final movement has nothing of the Sturm und Drang that makes the piece so exuberant, and the normally triumphant coda comes off as altogether underwhelming. Again, it comes off as underwhelming. Period. It's edit the adjectives. Edit. Writing is rewriting. See how much you can get away with by taking things out that are just there to add verbiage. Okay, but basically, it's a very good summary of the performance. I mean, all the points are there. The comparisons are there. The observations about the character of the music, what Pogorelich does. I mean, it's all there. So that's very, very good. It's all a question of style, just cleaning up the style. So, to the conclusion. One of Chopin's late works, this sonata is known for its technical complexity, which might explain why it's not performed as often as it should be. Okay, so here, you're repeating what you said in the first paragraph. And what you said in the first paragraph really is not strictly true. I mean, like I said, in a relative sense, perhaps you can make that argument, but it's not basically true. So that's a problem. Get rid of the sentence. Pogorelich is more than up to the task, but there is nothing here that others haven't done better, and with fewer idiosyncrasies. Argerich, who incidentally was a jurist, you said he was a jury, in said piano competition, was a jurist, yes, in said piano competition, and resigned in protest when Pogorelich failed to nab the top prize, please, owns the piece. Well, nobody owns a piece. We joke about that, don't we? Who owns this? But she is one of the reference recordings, and you made that point, and that was enough. So you can go back, and then you go to Sokolov lives it, Pogorelich merely studies it. The result is an acquired taste at best. Okay, I think the concept here, Argerich owns it, or Argerich embodies it, or something. All you said embodies, it lives. So it's the same as embodies. Okay, Argerich, Argerich masters it, something like that. You'll find a way to do it. Sokolov lives it. Pogorelich merely studies it. That's a nice rhetorical flourish with which to end, but it needs to be tidied up a bit, along the lines that I'm suggesting. And then the last line, the result is an acquired taste at best. No. Your job is to tell people whether it makes any sense to waste their time and money listening to this thing. You're copping out in the last line. The last line ought to be, this isn't competitive, because you just said that. I mean, you said there's nothing here that others haven't done better. So if that's true, why would anyone want to acquire the taste for this thing? Just come out and say, not worth your time. Period. Because that's what you're saying. I mean, it's what you do say. So don't contradict yourself by pulling back in the last line, especially after that wonderful rhetorical flourish. You could just end there and say, Argerich consumes it, and Sokolov lives it, and Pogorelich merely studies it. Period. Wonderful ending. Don't undermine your own climax. It's a bad thing. But all the elements of a really good, perceptive, thoughtful review are here. The issue is style. Writing style, rhetorical style. And that's just a function of experience and self-editing, which is the most difficult part of this task, really. Knowing, when to quit, when to stop, how to condense, what's necessary and what isn't. But it's a good review and a very good effort. And thank you so much for submitting it. I think this has a lot of promise. It really does. And certainly the musical elements are all there. The listening is there, which is, one of the most, obviously, perhaps the most important aspect. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.